To Second Breakfast and our ongoing Summerween series, celebrating hot weather and horror movies by bringing you the best thoughts, theories, and literary analysis this side of Klein Collins High School.
Wow.
Which is where Tristan and I went to high school together, and where he was quarterback of the football team.
Of course, yes. In this episode, we're talking about Him, which is the new football horror movie. In this episode, we're going to talk about this movie sort of as an inverse Faust story. Yes, is anybody surprised? No, I'm certainly not. After that, we're going to open it up and talk about what the story really is about. We got some theories going there. And then we'll end by talking about this movie's multiple homages to a Kubrick classic. Let's get into it.
All right, so yes, this is the football horror movie. I think that is a useful shorthand for this film. And on paper, you might think, hey, Cam and Maggie have absolutely no business talking about a football horror movie.
Zero.
But I would disagree. One, horror movies are horror movies.
Sure.
And also, I don't think this is really about that. I think it's about many other things that are universal.
Right. I think the football is sort of just the aesthetic playground that we're in, but it's about larger themes.
Also, we've been to, how many football games have you and I been to between high school and college?
Too many, I gotta say.
A lot.
More than two, so too many.
Your family's pretty deep into football?
I don't know.
You're qualified.
I don't know what happened to me. So born and raised in Texas. My whole family loves football. I'm just I'm not a sports person, and my least favorite sport of all time is football. I viscerally hate it. If I talk about it too much, I'll get too mad. Well, basically, it takes too long because most of the time we're not actually playing the game. We're standing around looking at each other. It's a dumb game. Anyway.
Okay, well, I think that's a good place to start. So as someone who doesn't like the aesthetic backdrop setting, whatever it is that you want to call the role that football plays in this movie, you're kind of going in predisposed to not enjoy it. So what'd you think?
Well, I know. I really liked it. And it's interesting. A lot of people really haven't liked this movie, and maybe we're going to get into that later.
Hence our title. Everyone is wrong about
They
him.
sure are, because this was great. Well, I was intrigued by this movie when I first heard about it, because, I don't like football. I don't really care. But I was like, usually horror doesn't, really mesh with sports and athletes and that kind of thing. But I think it's a really great sandbox to play in because it's about ambition and goals and providing for your family and that sort of thing.
Competition, self-loathing.
And I think that's a great sort of thematic, playground to be in. So I really liked it. And also, I don't know a whole lot about football. I know more than I care to, but that's still not very much. But that didn't really matter for this movie. It gave me plenty of context that I needed. Even when they were using terminology I didn't understand, it still was clear what they were talking about. So I wasn't too bothered by it.
And when you think, or when I think about the origins of horror, and I go back to Frankenstein, Dracula, those early hits, I think about body horror. And questions that are so wrapped up in identity, whether it's Frankenstein being reincarnated from these corpses, whether it's Jekyll and Hyde with the duality and identity questions there. And this whole movie, there's a body horror to football with CTE and everything else that happens there.
Absolutely.
And I think that contextualizes a lot of the surrealism in the film. But the whole film's also about identity and achievement and how we value ourselves and how other people see us. So I think this is more steeped in horror than it is in football.
Yeah, totally. And also, if you want to take away a very shallow, easy takeaway from this movie, the movie is not really. It doesn't really condone football. It kind of makes football look pretty bad.
Sure.
So there's also that, which I found interesting.
So the movie's about a prodigy who gets his chance at being on the team that he loves.
His name is Cam, by the way.
It is.
Was that fun for you?
It was strange. It felt, your ears perk up when someone says your name in a crowd?
Yep.
It felt like that for the entire movie. It was strange.
And it's weird because a lot of people are named Cameron, but not many people go by Cam. I've only ever met one or two other Cams in my life. So this was fun for me.
So he gets a chance to play for the team that he loves and idolizes. And before that contract offer, kind of as an audition boot camp, he goes to the training center, I guess that's what you'd call it,
sure, yeah,
of his favorite player, who's the star player and captain of the team.
Yeah, his name is Isaiah something.
And it's this compound, and what he goes through in that boot camp is increasingly surreal and screwed up and scary and intense, and it's all about how far are you willing to go to achieve, to be what you always wanted to be the best, and it spirals out from there. I love that. Just that premise makes me excited. I want to go watch it again now.
Yeah, same.
And I went into this hopeful Because we saw the trailers a bunch. There are some trailers that just get run into the ground.
Yeah, they just show you a lot, yeah.
And I loved how stylized it looked. It looked so choreographed and bold and not organic. You know what I mean?
Right. It's not creepy in the woods, demon, dirty, grimy horror.
Found footage.
Instead, it's like this very like clean, polished, surreal, otherworldly setting. And and the clothes that you're surrounded by are like athleisure and football helmets and like astroturf instead of like, sweaters and cozy fall type things. It's a very different kind of aesthetic experience than what I'm used to and tend to prefer in horror. But I liked that it was something different.
But also from the trailer, I got the sense that it was a very small cast, which always appeals to me.
Same.
And the big thing that I locked onto was, apart from the advertising was so heavy on the Jordan Peele producer credit, which,
of course,
as a horror fan, that's interesting too.
Yeah.
But it seemed like this was about a duo. And that is always my favorite thing. That's why The Lighthouse is my favorite Robert Eggers movie. I love the duo thing so much. Everything I write has a duo at the center of it.
Yeah.
And I think maybe that's a good place to start talking about Faustus. And I want to kind of ease into the bigger theory about this being sort of an inverse Faust fable, but I want to build to that by just on a simple level talking about the duo at the heart of this movie.
Sounds good.
Because this version of your Faustus and your Mephistopheles, that would be Cameron, or should we call him Cam?
He's
I
Cam.
feel
He
like we
goes
have to
by
make
Cam.
an executive decision.
Cam.
Yeah, but I'm Cam on
Too
this
bad.
show.
Not today, you're
No,
not.
he's Cameron.
Okay, he's
I don't want to
Cameron.
be Cameron.
That's fine.
So the Cameron and Isaiah is the mentor player that he's at the compound of. I really like how they're kind of caught in this stasis for the whole movie, where we see in the beginning montage that one of them has achieved such greatness and the other one has grown up so much in his shadow. But for the whole arc of this film, they're kind of trapped in amber. They're not having any new achievements. One's on the precipice of the rest of his life, and the other one's on the precipice of retiring.
Yeah, we don't see either of them like actually play a game of football. They're just doing training.
Right.
Yeah.
So they're kind of caught in stasis. And I think that almost equalizes or neutralizes them and turns this movie into kind of a doomed buddy story, where it's sort of a mentor-mentee thing, but it's also unsustainable. It can't last, because there will be a decision at the end of the movie. Either Cameron will be on the team or he won't. Either Isaiah will retire or he won't. So there's something already kind of doomed and sad and temporary about this relationship, and I think that's perfectly Faustian.
Yeah, sure.
But it doesn't just remind me of Faustus. I thought the way Marlon Wayans performed this Isaiah character, I thought he brought so much Tyler Durden to it. I thought there was a lot of Fight Club here.
Oh, okay. I was like, who's
so
Tyler
he would be
Durden?
he would be the Brad Pitt role.
Yes.
And that performance is so interesting to watch. I'm a millennial man, so I've seen Fight Club 100 million times.
Yeah.
The thing I love so much about that also stylized movie about kind of contained masculinity in an unsustainable frame.
And it's a duo. Yeah, it's a very similar setup. That's true. I hadn't thought about that.
It's that Brad Pitt is so unpredictable, that he's so intimate and warm and familiar, but he's also incredibly volatile.
Yeah, and scary. Yeah.
And I think Marlon Wayans does a great job here. As an actor who's typically known for comedic roles, he does so much kind of sly, charming humor balanced by screaming in Cameron's face. And it's always one of those two. There's almost no, even in the downtime, he's, scratching his temple with a gun.
Right.
There isn't any real downtime. In the same way, Tyler Durden's always fidgeting and he's always got a destructive plan going.
And I think with both of those characters, we don't really know how to feel about them, and neither do our main characters of both of those movies. They like respect and want the approval of these people and feel close to them and like they're their friend / dad / brother, but also they're terrified of them, and there's also a very great surreal element to both of those. So I really like that.
And the implication, do you remember the end of Fight Club?
Yes.
Okay,
It's
spoiler
usually
alert for Fight
big
Club.
time spoiler if you haven't seen it, but yeah.
That duo ends up contracting into a singular person.
Right.
But at the end, when Edward Norton shoots himself to kind of get rid of the Tyler Durden part,
Yes.
there's this idea that they can't both, neither can live while the other survives.
Right.
And I think there was some of that here.
Yes.
But I thought him as a film, I thought it exaggerated and expanded that insecurity at the heart of this duo. Because when our Faustus will be dragged down to hell, he will become just another Mephistopheles.
Another demon.
At the end of the play, he is dragged down to hell. He becomes another demon. So his job will be to tempt other people. He'll go into the Mephistopheles business.
Right. He'll join the Satan MLM.
Yeah. And then they'll be coworkers. They're going to get more people at the bottom of the pyramid scheme.
Yes.
And I like that same ambition that led him to take the bargain in the first place is now going to carry him into his new job of being an agent of temptation. That the same urgency and drive that made Faustus achieve this thing that created this immortal play, like the idea that would make him a very capable competitor to Mephistopheles. Like if you look at it, Mephistopheles he has a lead. He has the edge here because he's been doing this temptation demon thing. He's got all the tricks. He's got the speech down. He knows how to do this. But I imagine a couple years down the line, Faustus will be pretty good at it too.
Well, right. So he kind of like ends up selling his soul in two ways. One's more literal in that here you can have my soul, demon, and I'll be forced to go down to hell later. But also in this process, I am selling my soul in that I am becoming like you. Right. So it's twofold.
They will become competitors, not colleagues, but competitors, because they're both avaricious. They're both power hungry, or in this parlance of the film, they would both want to be the goat.
Exactly, yeah.
But only one of them can be the paramount figure.
Yes, you can't have two goats.
So one of them's going to get a higher quota of souls every month. And I think that's a great tension within the Faustus-Mephistopheles relationship, is kind of this one in, one out policy, staging the death of their initial dynamic, because the mentor-mentee thing can't last.
Right.
Eventually, they're on even pudding, even
pudding,
chocolate pudding, and there can only be one.
Yeah.
Now I'm thinking about tapioca pudding. Is there anything grosser?
Rice pudding.
Is there anything grosser? But I like that this kind of impending competition is staged really early in the film. It's foreshadowed by the role of Julia Fox's character. And she plays Isaiah's wife. And within the Faustian context, she struck me as Helen of Troy.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Who's kind of this mirage. It's not really the resurrected Helen of Troy. It's kind of this mirage that is being projected by Mephistopheles to appeal to Faustus. And the same way, in him, she works as kind of an extension of Isaiah's agenda in wanting the kid to sign and training him up and showing him. I mean, she's the one who shows him the parties and the world and the luxury and the wealth that he could have, almost doing the parade of the deadly sins.
Sure. Well, and as time goes on, you really start to question if she's even there, because like the movie gets more and more surreal. You're starting to question more and more what's true and what's reality. I mean, I think there's a strong argument that she is real, but she's got this dreamlike, mirage-like quality to her. So that comparison makes total sense.
She feels impossible. Yeah. Like she's presented as an object of desire, but almost impossible desire. She's in this like couture every time we see her. She's an object of prestige. I mean, she's I guess there's an objectification happening there where she's kind of the prize. She's part of the overall temptation or seduction that this kind of, I guess in the Faustus parlance, the satanic thing is representing. Yeah. She's some of the spoils and riches you could get by selling your soul and signing this football contract.
But it's still a little off because the way they've styled her is she looks very strange. She almost looks like like one of the people in the Capitol in the Hunger Games. Yes, like she's got this weird kind of futuristic, otherworldly, almost alien styling to her makeup and her hair and her clothes, which it also just kind of makes her seem like very like modern and forward thinking and like fancy and luxurious, but also like it's not conventional. It's not what you would expect to see from like a famous football player's wife or girlfriend. And so instead she just has this otherworldly quality to her that makes her a little scary.
She's not just wearing nice clothes. It's incredible wealth. It's grotesque luxury.
Yes.
And I agree. I think it does feel otherworldly, especially from this guy who dresses fairly normally and like athleisure.
Isaiah looks like a normal, good-looking rich guy.
Well, I meant Cameron.
Oh, sure.
Because that's the contrast usually.
Yeah.
He looks very relaxed. We see him in his home at the beginning with blankets on the couch.
He's very normal.
He's kind of down to earth. So that contrast is even more heightened.
He's dating his high school sweetheart. He's a normal guy. Yeah.
And I think this is where we can go into the bigger Faust theory here and why I want to call this an anti-Faust fable.
Okay.
Because Faustus in the original is a cautionary tale. Don't sign your souls to the devil because this is what happens.
Don't do that.
You get dragged to hell, your whole life is blown up, and your immortal soul is completely screwed. I think him is a cautionary tale within a cautionary tale, in that all of the temptation, all of the duo dynamics that we just explored, all the heaven and hell, the guilt, the existential dread, the immortality, the legend that these guys are aspiring to, it all takes place before the contract is signed.
Exactly. We don't get that till the end.
Exactly. That's the finale of this film versus the contract signing being the inciting incident within Faustus.
Exactly.
So we're kind of backing it up. And it's not like it's a prequel. I think it's just staging a bunch of action that would take place before the traditional Faustus structure.
Which I think suggests like that just the signing is not the only sin you can commit in this type of metaphorical cautionary tale. There's a lot of shit you can do that's bad that doesn't require doing the extreme measure of signing your soul to the devil. I thought that was interesting.
And spoiler alert, because we have to talk about the ending of this thing.
Yeah.
This Faustus, Cameron, he rejects the deal. He turns down the bargain, resists the ultimate temptation. So it's a warning. It's not a cautionary tale in the way Faustus is.
Right.
Because Faustus shows you how a bad decision plays out.
Yeah, look what happens to this guy. Yeah.
But this, he makes the right decision at the end, but it still feels like a cautionary tale. And I think that's an interesting kind of inversion of the traditional Faustian structure. But if you look at the established rules that the film lays out about the GOAT, about this one kind of fated football player who will own the league and be the most powerful, it's about blood transfusion. There's a whole lineage here where Isaiah's blood is slowly, unknowingly transfused into Cameron so that he is the one. All the hopes of the league and this dynasty are pinned on him at the end.
Right, and he has all the blood of the past GOATs pre-Isaiah.
So at the end, when he says no, when he takes out all these guys at the signing ceremony, he's not just stepping away and saving his own soul, he's breaking the cycle. He's not just not signing the contract, he's kind of taking out all the demons and walking away.
Right, he doesn't just say no, bye, like he kills everybody.
And this is where I want to call it an anti-Faust Fable. Because if we were to graft that decision onto the Faustian framework, the corollary would be if Faustus refused to sign the contract, followed Mephistopheles back through the portal to hell, killed every demon in hell, and then beheaded Satan. That's how this movie ends.
That's a really good point.
So there can be no more bargains, no more temptations, no more demons, no more predators. He defeats hell at the end of this movie. I mean, throwing it to you in all the course of how many Faust Fable episodes we've done, has there ever been one like this? Like a remix that burrowed so deeply into one part of the story structure and then fainted at the last second to blow the whole thing up? Like,
no, I don't think so.
He goes John Wick through the entire afterlife and breaks the cycle forever.
That's really interesting. No, we haven't ever encountered anything like that. I mean, we've seen other Faust stories where it's a similar kind of cautionary tale, or it's like here's how it could go well. Like I'm thinking of like the Phoenician scheme or something like that, where he kind of ends up being okay in the end. But this is not like that at all, because it's not like he gets away unscathed and like he's fine. You're right. It is a cautionary tale. He still has to pay for the decisions he's made. He's had to go through all this shit. He has to kill all these people. And how does, what happens next? Does he get caught? Like what happens after that? And then of course he doesn't get to do what he wants to do and be this great player and provide for his family and, achieve everything he's been wanting to achieve. So he still is, suffering for what he's done, but still it is this great victory. And we haven't seen anything like that. It does make me wonder, though, like within the metaphor, yes, he has defeated the demons and Satan and gone through hell and, John Wicked it all. But it makes me wonder, like, well, is this the only place within the football universe that this kind of thing exists?
Oh, like does every franchise have the same setup?
Right. Like it's not just that Isaiah is the best Saviors player of all time on this fictional team. He's like the greatest ever. So you get the sense that it's larger beyond just this one team, but still, like there's no way this is the only branch of this organization. Like there's got to be more somewhere.
I like that. I think because the film never even gestures at other teams or other dynasties like this, I think we're meant to believe that this cycle has been broken.
Okay.
There is no gesture at the rest. Like when you see at the end of Cabin in the Woods, you see all of the other games that they've run, all the other creatures they have in the cells.
Right.
There's no gesture like that in this movie. I think we're meant to believe that this is a complete story that ends this violence.
That's a really good point. There's no talk of like trading players across other teams, or Isaiah used to play for the Buffalo Bills and then he was transferred into the Saints, and like there's no indication of cross-pollination. So yeah, maybe you are right. Yeah, maybe just that's it. Yeah.
To kind of broaden this out past Faustus, maybe we missed the forest for the trees here. What did you think this movie was about?
Like before or now? You said past tense, so I didn't know if you meant before going in. I mean, I think before going in, we talked about this on the way to the movie. We always say, like, what do you want out of this movie? What are you hoping it'll be? We almost always have that conversation. And I said I was hoping it would sort of dive into stuff about masculinity, especially because football is so much about masculinity and just men. Like, that's so much what it's about. Or it's so, they're so tied together, like our societal standards for masculinity and what we hope for that to mean. And that was definitely there, but it was really more just about ambition. And that's really tied in with men and male drive and that kind of thing. Obviously women are ambitious. That's not what I mean. But like the dangerous kind of like life altering, soul destroying desire for greatness is very tied into like ideas about masculinity, at least in the United States. So I found that there, but it was more about ambition, I think. And
I think there's a masculine urge to define yourself by your achievements.
Yes, exactly. Versus like being a good father or being a good husband or a good friend. It's more about, I did this thing so that I can, like, what for them, he keeps saying he wants to provide for his family. So he doesn't say I want to be a good father or a good son or a good husband. He says I want to provide. And I think for him, being a good family member, being a good man means you're providing. Like, but it's less about your soul and your personality and how good a person you are. So yeah, it's defining yourself by your achievements. That was, I think, the carrying through line. And I think by the end he realized that how much he would be giving up of his own self and soul by achieving this great thing. And he decided, I don't want to do that.
So if we're talking about competitive kind of, I mean, there's a creativity obviously to football and playing it, and there's strategy and critical thinking.
Yeah.
That type of ambition, which can scale infinitely, especially when you have kind of rabid, competitive men. I think that there are millions of stories about that. Did you find any corollary here to Whiplash?
Oh, yes, I did a bit. Yeah, Whiplash is such
It's
a good
almost
movie.
like too obvious a comparison. Did you think, like, how do you think this is in conversation with that rabidly aggressive mentor-mentee, achieve at all costs type of film?
Well, it's interesting because they're very similar, but the endings are very different. The cycle is not broken at the end of Whiplash. It continues, and it's, I think, all the more volatile at the end of Whiplash.
Right, like both mentees are successful in the end, but one of them is incredibly bleak.
Right, exactly, yeah. And so that is and you see him like kind of ruin his whole life and his sense of self and all of his relationships by the end in Whiplash. I mean,
yeah, he becomes the new J.K. Simmons.
Exactly. But here, the cycle is broken.
We pivot away. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and this is obviously much more extreme. It's much more violent. It's much more surreal and horror-y. Like Whiplash is not horror, right? Even though there is quite a lot of blood in Whiplash. But gosh, it's awful. But
there's more blood in this.
Well, of course, yeah. So it's interesting. Those are similar, but here the cycle, they choose to break the cycle instead of continuing it on. But both of them, like, neither of them paint a picture of, like, neither of them are soft on this issue of, what will you do to achieve greatness? What will you do to yourself and to your loved ones in order to achieve great things? Both of them really highlight and make us think about the extremities of that desire for great achievement.
Totally. I think there are a couple other things that the movie might be about. And as ever, in the comments, what did you think this movie was about?
Yes,
let us know.
Tell us.
But a couple other things that I want to popcorn here. One is about exploitation. Exploitation of athletes, of young people.
That's the other bit.
And on a more societal level, I think of workers. I think there's an anti-capitalist critique happening here. And there is, I mean, racially, in a class sense, there's a slavery tinge to so much of this, especially when you're talking about groups of young black men, and then you see the white men in the weird eyes wide shut masks who are called owners. There's so much of that baked in, and I think it's cross-pollinating the racial critique with the class critique. I found that incredibly rich here without it wasn't hit so hard that like the movie never felt like a sermon, even though it was so much of a critique.
Right.
And that's the difficulty with any sort of satirical or commentary based, particularly horror. I thought this one really rode that line carefully.
And you do expect it to be a little more overt from like a Jordan Peele project, because like something like Get Out is, I think, an incredible film, but it is overt in its critique on racism and like and class, and that's really interesting. And I think that was sort of a groundbreaking moment for horror and that kind of thing. But here it's much more subtle, and maybe that's why a lot of people aren't connecting with it, because they were expecting they were expecting a much more like overt, like, oh, this is going to be about black men in football. And yeah, it is, but it's tied in with all these other things, and it's a little more subtle, and it kind of forces you to do a bit more of the thinking.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's totally a show don't tell situation, where at least with Get Out, I think it was more of a tell than a show thing.
Definitely.
Where, I mean, it's I'm not talking shit about Get Out. I just mean that the critique there was much more spelled out.
Right.
So if you kind of spoon feed it to the audience and they're on board with the message, then they can rally behind it. I thought this one was more nuanced and veiled. I think this one was, if anything, more incisive than Get Out was. It just didn't give you as many footholds into it. You had to think about it more. I think this is a less accessible and mainstream movie, but I found it much more potent.
Yeah.
I think thematically.
Absolutely.
Because the movie hasn't done well, not just commercially, but critically. And I mean, that's why we wanted to talk about it, because it's been so poorly received. And we both thought it was excellent.
It was great.
And it's one of those that I thought about for a few days after. I can't tell you how many movies that we see, even some that we talk about, where I have a positive experience, and then it's like the toilet flushes in my brain, and it's just completely gone. I couldn't name a character. This is one I've gone back to mentally many times now. So I think it is incredibly rich thematically.
Definitely.
And you can pick any of these angles. I mean, just in the last couple minutes, we've talked about gender with the masculinity, we've talked about race, and we've talked about class. And I think any one of those three lenses, you could get an hour-long video essay out of.
Yeah,
but
totally.
There are so many there's so many inroads thematically for this movie. I think there's a lot going on here. The last one to kind of hit the, I was so annoyed. It's a sidebar. I saw something online saying, the message of the movie is that football is satanic. Damn.
I'm sorry.
I know. I don't even know how to respond to that.
So did you like watch a 5-second clip?
Right.
And that was how you...
I don't know how you sit in a chair and get that out of this movie.
Critical thinking is dead, folks.
It's
you
crazy.
heard it here first.
But I also
I think they probably just typed into, hey, ChatGPT, what's him about? God damn. Okay.
And in the same way, I think the comparisons to Fight Club and Whiplash are common. I would think most people could get there, and I don't think those are unintentional, probably just because they're so potent within film circles. I saw an interesting comparison to Midsommar.
Oh, that's interesting.
And I don't know if I love that comparison, but I like the idea, kind of tying it into the class critique, that the movie is about, or might be about, the level of corruption. The corruption that we see within the cult in Midsommar, and the kind of shadowy elites that control that cult,
right,
and ultimately wipe out all of our visitors. I think there's a similarity here.
Certainly. And both, behind the scenes cult leaders are grooming our main character to make them their new star, their new mascot,
right,
their new May Queen, or their new goat.
It's kind of a signing ceremony
at
the end of Midsommar, and I think there's a similarity here. So
that's interesting.
I like that comparison, but I think we did an episode on all four Ari Aster movies month or two ago at this point when Eddington came out. And I think that was about the secret cults. We talked about how every Ari Aster movie has a secret puppeteering cult in it to some degree. And I thought him was exploring a similar idea there.
Certainly. And both Midsommar and him have this element of your main character is either is dealing with a head injury or is taking drugs. And so they're not totally clear about what's real, what are they seeing or imagining, and how is their own personal past and fear, attacking them psychologically. So yeah, there's some similarity there. I think that's really interesting.
And to move on to the last thing I think we're going to discuss in this episode, there's another movie that I haven't seen anyone mention that I found as almost a direct corollary or possible touchstone for this project. And before I name the movie, I want to kind of build to it so you don't recoil.
Okay.
The journey of this movie. You talked a couple weeks ago when we were talking about Somnium, another great indie horror movie. You said you don't really like surrealism.
Not when it's like too crazy. Like it leaves me feeling a little stranded and kind of out in the middle of the ocean.
Did you have any of those feelings here?
No, there was plenty that was grounded and the plot was still like solidly a plot I could follow. And so the surreal elements I thought were great here. When the whole thing is like, I don't know what's happening, that makes me feel really uneasy. And perhaps that's the point and I should just get over that. But I don't personally like that. But here, no, it was like, there was a clear, obvious like plot that we were following. It was just like, there were flashes or moments where it was like, I'm not sure if that was real. And that was just effective. So I liked it.
Yeah, I was worried it was going to lose you a little bit, because I think the film was so stylized. And sometimes when we use words like stylized and surreal, I think sometimes we can mean the same thing. There's some sort of overlap there.
Yeah, that's a Venn diagram, those two things.
And I think somewhere within that meeting is where you fall off.
Sometimes,
so I was worried this was going to hit that, because this is such an aggressively stylized film.
It is,
It's I mean, there are literal strobe lights. There's X-ray vision. There's such blinding color at moments. And all of it is, I mean, in the notes I called it like a Technicolor aggression. I found the film so potent, so impatient, so writhing. It looked like a music video in a good way.
Yes.
In the entire thing managed to feel like a music video, which could be fatiguing, but I think it was so light on its feet. We slid through time so quickly. We moved through locations so quickly that I never had time to catch my breath. I think there's a bit of uncut gems here in the way that the film is paced. Specifically, it feels like for a modern audience and a modern attention span.
We don't linger on things too long, but that means that a lot of things are left unexplained, which
I love.
I do too, but that might be why that might answer a question of why a lot of other people had a hard time with it.
Every scene feels like a Jack in the Box. But I think there are so many, it is so stylized, so rapidly, unexplainably stylized, that if you almost just reach in and grab things at random, you can compile these familiar aesthetics. And I want to do that for a second.
Okay.
Because I felt all these nods to the canon. And there was one that really blew me away. It was during one of the training sessions when you've got that beautiful green astroturf that's kind of making up the landscape of this, I don't know, it was some kind of hangar or bunker or dungeon.
Right.
But most of it's this really bright green. And then you've got the white lines dividing up the field. And you've got the brown of the football. And you're just enjoying the color. It's beautifully lit. And the colors feel incredibly rich. There's a bit of Strange Darling in there. Go check out that episode.
Yeah, no, I love the colors in this movie. And like the uniform for this team is like this maroon blood color. So it's beautiful. Yeah.
And every time a new color was introduced, it felt like adding another element to classical music. Like the symphony was kind of growing.
Oh, sure.
And then the main character, Cameron, put on this helmet. And it had this like tech in it, and they were talking to him and communicating. It was a whole thing. And it had this visor. Do you remember the visor on the helmet?
Yeah, it's like clear, but kind of not.
Yes. So there are moments where Isaiah will walk up to Cameron and grab his helmet and scream at him to motivate him. And you see the helmet really clearly to the point that it kind of fills the screen.
Yes.
And it's somehow polarized. There's some kind of treatment or something on it's not just like clear glass.
Sure, yeah.
Or plastic.
I'm sure it's designed to like prevent, like basically like sunglasses. I'm sure it kind of serves that function.
But it's sort of reflective in that it has, there's kind of a blue and a red.
There's an iridescent thing happening.
Yes, it's kind of, or pearlescent, or there's a reflective quality. But when that takes up the whole screen and you've got these bright colors kind of bouncing off of this thing that's filtering your main character's terrified face, it started to remind me of the helmet in 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Oh.
When you see all of those close-ups of your main character with all of these colors and scary, unexplainable shit swirling around him. So then I started kind of bookmarking 2001: A Space Odyssey as it came up.
Interesting.
And I noticed in the nighttime surreal sequences, when you know later that Cameron is being dosed with blood and drugs and all this other weird shit, when he sees these apparitions that at that time we just think are from his head injury, like he's hallucinating.
Yeah.
He wanders through this compound and he walks out of his room and he just keeps walking and walking, and he's always kind of veering left. And it's just this one hallway that veers left forever, to the point that the building feels circular. So it's like infinite wandering through a circular building. That's the same thing in 2001. Remember the circular room? Like vertically circular?
Okay,
where it looks like he's
yes.
on a hamster wheel, but because of the lack of gravity,
Doesn't matter,
he's just kind of walking up and down over and over again.
Wow. Yeah, I do remember that now.
And I rarely see that element of 2001 evoked like this. But I also think it is in that color work, that total kaleidoscopic color work, because at the end, when the character goes through this whole, it looks like a loading screen of all these colors shooting at you, where it goes kind of maximally stylized and surreal. I found so much of that here. Every time it was color washes, or at the parties, the way the color was lit, and it felt like there were light bulbs of every different color just bleeding all over the scene.
That's true.
There was an incredible, again, aggression of color here.
Well, and like stylistically, both of these movies just like have these very like cold, stark environments that are not natural. They're very man-made and manufactured. You're either in this spaceship or in this really strange arena that doesn't contain a single natural element. I mean, you're in the middle of the desert, but we're not usually out in the desert. We're inside this weird, I don't know, biome that's been created that's just like purely like mechanical.
And the tone is incredibly off. There's something almost bemused about the tone, because those two leads, Cameron and Dave, respectively, are both on the verge of massive achievement.
Yes.
Dave is, man taking the farther than, whatever the fucking space line is. One big step for Dave and a bigger step for mankind. So he's on the precipice of being the guy in the history books who's making this biggest leap. That's the fucking word.
Okay, yeah.
And I think Cameron is right on the precipice of being the most famous and successful football player of all time.
Yes.
But neither of them are particularly excited. They're both kind of scared and standoffish and massively uncomfortable.
Yes, that's true.
And again, that's a really tough tone to dial into in this sort of film, especially a grounded, contained football horror movie and a sweeping sci-fi epic.
Sure.
It's interesting that they're hitting the same beats or making me feel the same things. And to go back to that music video quality, at the beginning of the film, you see Cameron's entire childhood. You see, to the point that the young actor playing him as a child is only really in that beginning. And then you smash cut to him older, and he's on the way to the training facility. So you see his whole life. You see him with his parents growing up, the fandom, the obsession, how much he loves Isaiah, and it's this incredibly propulsive montage. There's so much audio layering over each other, almost like TikTok, where they edit the audio so no sentence really ends. They just stack the next one on top of it.
Interrupting yourself in the voiceover, There's
something delirious in the way audio is montaged like that. In the same way music videos can feel aggressive and overwhelming.
Yeah.
But this montage at the beginning, it so elevates the power of football as this thing that, we're so editing down this guy's life that it feels like football is the one thing driving him and keeping him breathing.
Right.
It is larger than life. It is the train off the tracks. It's incredibly powerful and rapid and momentous. It reminded me of the Monolith intro of 2001. Oh. That also feels like a montage through time and space. And instead of, at the end where the bone goes up in the air and then it turns into the spaceship, it's interesting that evolution of human ingenuity and achievement here is just football. There is no evolution. It's one kid's life, and football is that big.
Wow.
We're putting it on that level of going to space. We're making it this fundamental, central human achievement.
Interesting. I like that a lot. Did you, maybe you're going to get into this, but I'm thinking also about, is the computer named Hal?
Yes, it is. I was just going to ask you that.
Do you see Hal and Isaiah as sort of fulfilling similar roles in their respective stories?
I was going to ask you, is there a Hal? Because there's almost no tech because they take his phone. So where do you see a Hal? I don't really have an answer there.
I think it's in Isaiah. To be fair, I've only seen 2001 one time, and it was a couple years ago, so I'm a little spotty, so help me here. But, Hal, towards the end of the movie, Hal is very much kind of taunting our main character. What's his name? Dave? Yeah. Dave, right? And he's he's literally like almost like in his head because he's the only thing he can talk to. And it's like, I think Hal becomes an extension of Dave's subconscious fears and insecurities. And I think what's happening in him, Isaiah represents that very much for Cameron as well. He critiques him, he shouts at him, he tries to motivate him, he tells him he's no good, he has to work harder, what are you willing to sacrifice? Those are all questions and things that I think Cam is saying to himself and is thinking about himself. And I think also, I mean, what Isaiah also serves in this movie is that he sort of becomes a replacement for Cameron's father, because his father is dead, and his father was his like main motivator growing up, and he's the one who made football the only thing that matters for Cameron, and was sort of his role model. And Isaiah also fulfills that role here, and Dave's not really doing that. But I think the level to which both of these, like Hal and Isaiah, have invaded Dave and Cameron's subconsciousness. I think that subconsciouses, plural.
Oh, okay.
Subconsciouses.
Okay.
Sorry, is similar. So I think there's some crossover there.
Because when you think of Hal, you think of the power, the kind of totalitarian weight that he has by the end of that story. But I also think of him with the little red eye and him being almost like a big brother figure. I think about the surveillance.
Yes.
And maybe, obviously there's a lot of that with Isaiah, because it's his compound. He knows everything that happens, and he cleans it up, or he knocks your knees out from under you. But I think maybe there's an element of, if we're looking for a Hal here, in Isaiah's super fans.
Oh, yeah.
Who are always watching the compound.
Yeah, these freaky.
Outside.
Yeah.
Who even sneak inside and then attack them. I think there's an element of surveillance there, where they externalize a lot of Cameron's paranoia. In the same way Hal, I think, externalizes a lot of Dave's feelings of being seen, of being momentous and being important. So maybe there's some of that there.
Yeah, it's not one-to-one. It doesn't have to be one-to-one, but that's interesting.
The last note I want to kind of end this on is all of these kind of marathon Kubrick comparisons and echoes remind me a lot of another wildly misunderstood and wrongly hated film that came out earlier this year.
Oh, okay.
I talked about all of the Shining comparisons I found in Hurry Up Tomorrow.
Oh, I forgot
The
all
Weeknd's
about Hurry
movie.
Up Tomorrow. Yeah. Deleted that one from my brain.
I thought there was a ton of Shining in there, and I thought it did it really interestingly. I thought it was all great riffs on those conventions of the genre.
Well, and similarly, that one is also about like personal achievement and ambition and wanting to be great. And it also, I mean, it's even more surreal than this one, which is part of why I didn't like it, where it's very strange and it's about obsession. And you don't really know what's happening. And yeah, that's interesting.
And it's about rabid fandom.
Yeah.
And it's incredibly modern.
Yeah.
I think that would be a great kind of double feature.
Yeah, I
of
agree.
these sort of hidden gems of 2025.
I agree. I thought you were going to talk about Eyes Wide Shut. I mean, you kind of did already. You mentioned it, but that's the obvious comparison. Yeah. But I mean, as I was thinking about it, because I was trying to guess what Kubrick movie you were going to talk about, I really don't think there's actually much to compare there, other than the presence of the weird cult who wear masks. Like, apart from that, I don't really see. I think that movie is not really about any of the things we're talking about here.
That's much more of an Odyssey. This is more of a kind of chamber piece.
Yeah. So, but I was not at all prepared for 2001. That's interesting. But listener, if you do have a strong, I don't know, tie to Eyes Wide Shut with this movie,
what did you make
below.
of this film? I mean, I had a great time. I loved this movie.
I loved it too. I thought it was so fun and just different. And I thought the violence was really interesting. I loved the way it was shot. There was a lot of like face to the camera, like head-on shots, which normally I don't like. Like, I'm thinking about what was that Shyamalan movie in the
Trap?
God, there was a lot of that in there, and I didn't think it worked
Trap.
there at all. I know you do. It's fine, but I thought here it worked really well. It was really unsettling and different and creepy and stylish and
bold,
polished,
yes.
and like really cool and fun to look at, and touched on some really interesting ideas. I thought him was great. I don't know what people's problem is.
Also, I know this is low-hanging fruit, but it was a Faust movie with a main character named Cameron.
Well, that does help for you.
What, am I going to not like it?
Yeah, exactly. Well, let us know what you thought. Thanks for joining us for this continuation of Summerween. It's still hot as fuck down here in Texas, so we're going to keep calling it Summerween, even though this is coming out, I think, on like October 1st or something like that.
This is a protest. Yeah. Until it stops being above 90 degrees, Summerween will continue until morale improves.
Exactly. Let us know what you thought. I was about to end the episode. Oh my God, without plugging all of our things. Hey, check out our Patreon. Did you know we have a Patreon? It's $2 a month. Over on the Patreon, you get 2 bonus episodes every single month, and it is such a delightful time over there. We talk about all sorts of things, not just horror. If you're new to us, we talk about a lot more than just horror, but it's kind of our main thing. So there's a lot of horror over there. Go check it out. One of the things you can get on the Patreon is access to all of our episodes of The Breakfast Buffet, which is a series where in each of those episodes, we talk about multiple things all at once. Sometimes Sometimes it's a few movies. Sometimes we include music in there, or a game, or some other experience that we've had. It's really fun, so go check that out.
And we talk about those works of art in conversation with each other.
Exactly.
So it's a more rigorous examination. I think we've done 33 volumes of that series.
Okay, yeah, that's a lot. Oh my God, that's a lot, man. Okay, wow, incredible. Also, finally, check out Cam's latest book, Lemon Tarts in Space. Cam is a fantastic author. He's so funny. Lemon Tarts is his latest book, and it is a light sci-fi dark comedy. It is super funny, super weird, super goofy. Alien meets Monty Python. Friday the 13th meets Flubber. Genuinely, that's what it is. It's so much fun. You can listen, or you can read the book as a regular book, or you can listen to the fully produced audio drama, which is a entirely different experience, and it's so wonderful.
Starring our beloved occasional co-host and quarterback of my heart, Tristan.
I almost called him a footback. That's not what I meant. What's a footback? I don't like that. Football quarterback.
What a note to end on.
Anyway, check it out. The links for that in the description. Thank you very much for listening. We'll catch you here in just a few days with another brand new episode.